Welcome back to the Franklin Factor podcast. Today is going to be a fun one because we have my dad, Jimmy Franklin, the founder of the Franklin team back. And if you know anything about Jimmy, he's been in the business for over 40 years. And that means he has all the stories, real estate stories that are unbelievable, crazy, ones that we probably should never speak about. But also today we're going to talk just about the crazy and fun ones. So I'm excited to have you here, Dad.
You know, when you said 40 years, that's what we've been saying for a while. You know, it's 44 now.
Well, I said over 40 years, I
know,
think,
but
right?
now you almost
Should I make it worse?
You almost need a new number now.
Almost 45 years?
Almost 50 years.
Yeah, no, because then that makes me older too.
That's true.
Okay, so Dad, early on, this is all about fun, crazy stories that...
No advice? You don't want any advice?
I mean, you can maybe give some advice on how to handle some of those crazy stories.
Okay.
Because we all know in this business, we deal with people. And sometimes, a lot of times, it's a lot of people and crazy scenarios. This is the most stressful situation, stressful purchase that they've ever bought, most expensive. So, of course... Sometimes nutty things happen.
Sometimes you can't fix crazy.
Yeah.
Actually, you never can fix crazy.
You never can. You never can. And so because of that, we have lots of stories. And I've always told Dad growing up that hearing these stories that maybe he could write a book. And before he doesn't have a memory anymore, we want to make sure we have all the stories to share. That sounds really bad. But I mean, I'm reading a book right now where you older people.
Happen.
Yeah, it'll eventually happen. And people as they age, they do want to share, their experiences, and what better way to share some crazy stories with our audience. So, early days, is there any story that sticks out that is a ridiculous or unbelievable, funny, whatever in your early days?
There's probably a bunch of them. You kind of end up when you get older, it's been a long time since any of this stuff happened, because the best stuff actually did happen early, and there was a reason for that. I think the city was in terrible turmoil, and so a lot of desperation, and that leads to more crazy than already.
Normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of foreclosures and all that. I do remember one specifically that stood out, because the ones that happen early also stick with you, because you're more later on, 20 years later, 30 years later, you just sort of, you just brush it off. You forget about it. And the ones early, they just stuck with you. But there was one, a couple of months into the business. And so, you get a call from someone. It was in the neighborhood that I was farming. And
should we share the neighborhood?
It was Cimarron. and so I got a call from this lady, and she wanted me to come over on a Sunday morning to list her home. And she told me enough stuff that I had even at that age, the red flags were out a little bit. This seemed something, didn't seem.
What did she say? You don't remember?
I can't remember that.
But you remember thinking.
I just remember thinking I'm going to call her Sunday before I go, before I miss, a good football game, And so I got into my Century 21 yellow jacket.
Oh my gosh.
That's right. They had those that my dad got me for a birthday present, and I felt obligated to wear it. So I was I'm going to call her and just confirm, and a man answered. I hadn't talked to a man, and she did tell me that she was married, and I said, whatever his name was, I'm just confirming. This was on a Sunday morning, remember, so he said, what? I said, I was just confirming, the listing. I talked to your wife. And can I use any language I want? Will you bleep it out?
I'm sure we can.
He said, I hadn't seen that fucking bitch in 3 days. And I said, okay.
Do you still want to sell your house?
No, I definitely didn't want to do that. So I said, all right, well, I just quickly, and about, 5 minutes later, the phone rang, long before caller ID. I had a feeling it was and it was her. And she said, hey, did my husband just call? And I said, yeah, he actually did call. He hadn't seen you in a while. He said, well, he's right here, but he's been on a binge, And so I got dismissed it and moved on. I said, yeah, well, let's talk about this later, whatever. And I didn't figure I'd hear from him. And later on, like a lot of houses in that time, it got foreclosed on. Shocker.
Yeah, right.
And I, everything was on a combo, and I went in there, and it was like there was obscenities written on the wall. There was, excrement. I mean,
Oh, geez. Yeah.
They purely, clearly urinated, and so that was a bad one. I mean, but surprisingly, there was a lot of that stuff going on. I got a foreclosure account several years later, and I saw stuff that I can't even. And they took everything.
Oh, yeah. I remember when I got into the business in 2007, 2008, after all those foreclosures happened. I remember going to some of the houses that were foreclosed on, and it was, I mean,
Well, we didn't do a lot of those, so.
I apparently I did, because I have pictures that I'm like, I hope the kids don't see, because I took pictures of them because it was so ridiculous. I mean, they took everything.
Yeah. You remember the old joke of they took everything but the kitchen sink? Remember that?
Yeah,
that old joke, that probably 100-year-old joke?
Yeah.
There was a house I went into where they actually took the kitchen sink, and I always wondered what they were going to actually do.
Yeah, what were they going to do? They're just mad.
They were
mad that their house got taken away because they didn't pay for it.
Yeah.
Somebody else was at fault for that. All right, so early on you're showing, because as you got, more experienced and more production under your belt, you had other showing agents for the most part in your later years. But what was there anything interesting that happened while showing homes?
A couple come to mind. One was we had centralized showing. I guess we still do, right?
It's actually not anymore. It's different.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I had centralized showing, and they would call, or maybe that's not even the case. I think this was before centralized showing, and whoever at the brokerage would call, and they told us, okay, lockbox, dogs are locked up.
Mm-hmm.
That was one, and you took what you could, and I remember I was driving to a place, I don't even know where it was. It was way out in the country, out in the Northwest somewhere, and it was on unrestricted land, and I saw the pen in the back. It's like, oh, that must be where the dogs are. And I rang the doorbell and nobody answered, and I opened the door, and these 3 attack dogs leaped into the door, like just as I was able to close it. So that would have been the end. That would have been my last showing story. Had it gotten a little bit, had they been a little bit slower getting to the door, because then the door would have been open.
And they would have attacked you.
There would have been nothing I could do. So they had not locked them up, and I guess they didn't. Back in those days, the houses didn't show very often. I mean, you could go, you wanted to get long listings, so they may have thought, oh, what's the odds of, they forgot nobody had shown their house in a month or 2 months, so they probably just didn't lock it up.
Stop doing it. Yeah.
And I think they were Rottweilers. So
oh gosh.
Yeah, they were gonna kill me. So there was that. A less serious thing, another situation where nobody answered the door, and I was given the okay to go. And I went in, showing the house, and nobody's supposed to be there. And I went into the bedroom, and two people were having sex. I guess they didn't hear the doorbell ring.
Oh my God. So what did you do?
Well, they didn't
stop. They didn't recognize that you were there?
No, they didn't look up. They didn't know I was there.
Oh gosh. Wow.
And I just told whoever I was showing the house to,
we need to leave.
We were going to have to go.
Oh my God.
So those were two pretty good. The two extremes.
Yes, I've had similar stories like that too. I've had not walking in, but where they didn't clean up for the showing, and they had, I guess he was a single guy, but they had one of those poster beds with the big, and he had like thongs hanging from the top for a showing. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of.
I went into a home, now I think about it, they had all the stuff for Satan worshiping.
Okay, so do you have any situations where you have a client that was unforgettable, like an unforgettable client, or maybe like a story? What about you and I? We worked a lot together.
That one sticks in my mind because, when you were a senior, and I had you do runners for me. And so there was a client, and I knew the person. She was a repeat client, and she worked for a builder. And so I knew her that way. And I had just met her husband when I listed the home. And this happens where everybody leaves their garage door unlocked because they have a garage door opener, and whoever the first showing was
Locked
it, yeah, and he didn't have a key, and he called and he was yelling at me. He said, "Man, I'm standing in the front yard with my thumb up my ass." That was a direct quote. So I sent you over to give him.
Thanks so much.
To unlock the door, and I thought, well, all right, I'm going to send somebody over. I'm going to send my daughter over. And she's going to unlock the door for you. And for some reason, he decided to be mean to you.
I don't even remember. Yeah. So it wasn't that mean.
Well, you let me know that.
Oh, yeah.
But,
stuff like that happens. Yeah.
It does. I mean, that's not even a great story, except that it stuck in my mind because you were working for me for part-time.
Then I was in high school. Geez, like it was my fault.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah. Hey, remember that time? Not a client, but you were driving and you had an accident in the car, and I think then you weren't a good driver early on. You've improved greatly.
I have improved.
But you had an accident, and then later on,
which accident?
And then later on, you hit your tire. You blew the tires out by taking the corner wrong, and I told you. You couldn't have your cell phone in the car. And so I was leaving. You were going to run a runner, and I happened to get in the car, and you were on the phone. And I honked, and I pointed over.
I don't remember any of this.
It was right on Mason Road.
I've had a lot of accident issues on Mason Road.
No, I know, but you weren't having an accident, but I told you.
Oh, because I couldn't have my phone.
Yeah, your phone, and you literally are on the phone like 2 minutes after you're leaving the office chatting with a buddy. So that's not a client. That's a crazy employee story. Oh, I could go there.
Oh, no. I guess you can go there. Crazy employee story. Yeah. Let's go there. Because, I mean, how relatable is that? If you're somebody growing a team, eventually you are going to have not just client stories to tell, but also employee stories, because as you grow, you hire people, people leave. And
So first I want to say that I have been the luckiest person in the world when it comes to employees. So the fact that I have any story at all is kind of surprising, because the people I've hired, some of them who still work for you guys now, Kathy, Elizabeth, I mean, people, that just are, made my life so easy. But I did have somebody who kind of, I had somebody, she had a license. She was an assistant, and one of my old clients wanted to see a home on a Sunday. And I asked her if, and so I had a compensation package for that. So I had her meet him at the house, and she was going to show a second house. And so I didn't hear how it went. The next day I had a call from the client. She said, "You know what happened to so-and-so?" And I said, What do you mean? She said, well, first of all, she hit our car. She didn't hurt it, but she bumped into it, when she came to the house. And then she didn't show up at the second house, which was 4 blocks away. And I said, what? How's that even possible? And so I said, was she drunk? And I couldn't tell that she was drunk. And
why did you ask that? Like you just had it. I know.
I'd seen her at parties. Okay. I'd seen her at office parties.
So you're like, okay, maybe this is it.
Maybe she was
drinking
on Sunday before I called her, right? Mm-hmm. And so anyway, about sometime, she didn't show up for work Monday, and sometime Monday afternoon she called and said she'd been in jail because she'd taken a wrong turn, got pulled over on 99, because this was in Cinco Ranch, and she was drunk.
DWI.
Yeah. And because I can't fire anybody, she, I just gave her a warning, and then.
What do you mean you can't fire anybody?
I mean, I'm just not good at it.
Yeah.
And so, and it wasn't until the office almost started to, she was clearly coming to work.
Well, and
they were noticing that she was.
She had drinks in her drawer too.
Well, that's what I found out later. But finally, I finally got the nerve to let her go.
Yeah. We've had quite some. I mean, yes, you've been lucky.
You guys have a bigger team. I had
We
a
have a
small
bigger
team.
team, yeah. But, I think that, you find some really good ones. You've had some people that you had, besides her, like, we hired and, didn't end up to be what you thought. I think that's normal though, Yeah.
Yeah, but that was the one, and that one was kind of unique because she wasn't like she didn't just get there. She'd been there with me and done pretty good work for several years, and
Yeah.
I think something had happened.
Well, and that's what happens, right? Like, I mean, people have things that happen and experiences, and then, life changes and stuff kind of goes
and
downhill.
didn't,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
It's sad.
It's sad, yeah, especially when it's something like that, because that could have been really disastrous,
Yeah.
Okay, so what about any other like stressful closings? I'm thinking like that, you obviously there's always, if you've been in the business for a while, there's deals that you didn't think were going to happen that ended up happening and you held them together. Were there any that you thought were fine and then didn't end up happening? Anything silly or that people didn't close because of a silly situation?
I've had to, I don't know that this is a strength of mine or a weakness, honestly, but I've had to write checks to get people to come back to the table over stupid stuff. And for a long time, up till I don't know when, it was pretty common that people were sitting across from each other.
Oh yeah.
It's a bad idea.
Oh, I'm so glad we don't do that anymore.
It's a bad idea.
Very bad.
I don't know why anyone thought that was a good idea. I guess it was just for time,
Simpler for the title agent, maybe.
Yeah, I mean it's more time consuming. So whenever they weren't at the same table because somebody said, "Hey, this hasn't gone well. Let's don't put them in the same room."
Yeah, right.
That happened occasionally, but sometimes it was a bad transaction, and there they were, and there was a number of fights where they walked out, and I had just like, what are we talking about here? And it was something stupid, like some where you do the math on do I want to redo this transaction or not?
Yeah, or can I just throw in money to make it happen?
Yeah. And so sure, there was those kind of things, and of course I've done that countless amount of times. They tend to be over repair issues over the years where someone is fixing to say, I'm out, and one of our best friends' dad, whose name I won't bring up, he told me to get my sign out of the yard. He was old at the time. He told me to get my sign out of the yard because I was telling him that this was a legitimate, request.
Yeah, you were doing your job, advising him
It was
on
a
what makes sense.
legitimate request. And he said, come get yours. And I called him back and I said, hey, what do you think about me giving them the $175 that you're refusing to spend on this plumbing issue? And he goes, all right, we're back in business.
Leave the sign. You're good.
And that's happened a lot over the years. And people get very emotional over small things.
Well, and that's what I feel like I'm constantly, like when agents are asking on our team, it's like, how do they want to handle it? I'm like, a lot of times it's, hey, let's look at the bigger picture here. Does this person want to sell? Does this person want to buy? Let's try to bridge the gap and like all get there. But still, people are emotional. And that's why I think the beauty of us in our profession is that we have to try to not be so emotional and help, get it done. Now, when we sell our own houses, we can all be emotional. I think we've talked about that before.
Yeah.
Not like crazy, because we're not crazy. We're the low percentage of people that are not crazy.
You think
right?
you're the only non-crazy?
I said we,
Oh.
as all of us as a family.
So we're playing in the back nine, and I mentioned that you guys, for my 70th birthday, got me, and he's got teenage or young college age kids, and he's probably 50, and he's a really good golfer and everything. And I said that for my 70th birthday, I got trips to the Masters, and he's talking about the Masters, so it's like a legitimate reaction. He goes, "What? Wait a minute, you're 70?" And I said, thank you very much. He goes, no, I'm serious. And so I wouldn't tell that story, but it got me thinking about why people say that a lot. And I don't think they really say that because I don't look 70. I think I probably look 70. or I look 67, you know.
Yeah.
I don't look like I'm 58 either, you know. I might look like a 70-year-old that looks like he's in good shape. There's a difference between a guy that looks like he's 70 in good shape. It's like, hey, I'm going to guess how old you are. You look like you're in great shape, but you're 70, versus that person just looks, you know, Michelle Pfeiffer doesn't look 70. She looks whatever. And I think it's because I'm silly. I have a sense of humor. You know, so it's more that I convey a younger deal. So a lot of things, you know, it just, you know, my advice for aging is don't lose your sense of humor if you ever had one, you know, because I've also decided that people, you know, when you think people don't have, you know, they don't laugh,
Yeah.
you know, at jokes, at good jokes, or they don't laugh at funny situations, or everything's as serious.
They take everything seriously.
I think it's almost like it's I used to think, well, that's on them, but now I don't. I think it's like I've evolved to where I think people kind of are born with that. It's almost like natural, like you're a good singer or you're a good athlete or whatever. You know, there's just people that just can't, they don't have it, you know, they don't have it. And it's hard to, you can make yourself a better athlete, you can make yourself a better singer, but it's not a natural, sense of humor is not a natural, it's not a natural, you know, like Royce Brown, for example, he couldn't have ever made himself have a sense of humor. It wasn't his fault that he just didn't have one. It was just that he just wasn't born with it. So
Yeah.
anyway, I'm rambling. It probably doesn't belong in this podcast, but.
All right, Dad. So I feel like when I was researching for these like questions to ask and like this episode, one came out that I thought was really interesting. So what is the one story that our family has heard time and time again?
The one I think you probably heard ad nauseum is how I got into the business. The fact that I lost my job, we were closing on our first house. You know, your mom and I were closing our first house. It was my 27th birthday, and I was so excited. And then my boss called me in and laid me off
On the same day.
on that day. You know, that we were going to go close on the house, and that indirectly led to me not being able to get jobs because it was a high school dropout. No, I'm sorry, I was a college dropout.
College dropout.
I was a high school graduate.
Woohoo!
College dropout.
College dropout, almost a graduate. Like it's not like you tried it.
A little over halfway.
I mean, second semester, junior year.
There you go. Anyway, I ran out of money, you know,
Yeah.
and so on and so forth, and just never got back. But anyway, regardless, that's the story that everybody is sick of hearing.
Yeah.
The family, don't you think?
I mean, I don't think we're sick of hearing. I think you've said it time and time again, like I said, and we all can repeat it.
Time again.
But I think it's a powerful story because it's like the start of your career, and it's actually kind of bittersweet because you were closing on a home, lost your job, and then decided you were going to be a realtor.
It wasn't anything but sweet because, you know, I would have not found this.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like
Yeah. It was
bitter because you had a mortgage and it was stressful because
Yeah.
you were signing to buy a home and you went through with buying it because back in that day, they didn't call to confirm your employment like they do now. And maybe they wouldn't have, even if they called to confirm, they didn't, because
They wouldn't have called that day, but.
They used to, even after the crisis when I was in the business, they would call because they knew that people were lying about their jobs. I don't think they do that so much. I think they do it like a week or so.
That was just a cattle call. We closed at midnight.
Oh.
I mean, it was just a line, and they sent us home
for the end of the year.
Oh yeah, so we booked too many people.
Yeah.
The end of the month.
Yeah,
July
end
30th.
of the month. Yeah.
And we booked too many people in here. Go home for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And, you know, so we come back and then we wait 2 more hours, and you know they were closing stuff. I think we got bond money at 13.75%.
Wow.
Which was a good deal. Well, and I got a foreclosure. I've told you I got a foreclosure account, and another story you've heard too many times. Mm-hmm. And about 4 years later, I got a listing in the neighborhood, and I was like, all right, this is a short drive. And I did my market analysis, and I knew by that time, of course, what these values were, but it just hit me. It hit me particularly at that one because it was our floor plan, and it was selling for, I comped it out at, sent the report into the to my
bank.
contact at the bank, at the mortgage company, and it was exactly, it was $28,000, like exactly half of what
Wow.
we paid. That's what it was worth for the, there was there was a window during that 87, 88 years. That's what they were worth.
And that happens, I guess. Not necessarily that bad, but that can
That
happen.
was as bad as,
Yeah, right. Okay, so to kind of wrap up, one last question I was going to ask is, what, in all of these stories, is there like a common theme or something that an agent can learn because they're dealing with all types of people, how they could be a better agent?
Well, since we've talked about crazy and emotional and, whatever the right word is, angry and emotional and, stressed out, the best thing you can be is not that. Mm-hmm. You gotta put yourself above it. You gotta look at it and you have to be empathetic to their situation best you can. You can't, early on, occasionally, before I learned better, I would sort of tell them that they were acting like a kid. You don't do that. Mm-hmm. That's not good. So you don't want to do, you have to be as empathetic as you can be, but you also have to not be, you can't be emotional. You have to be above that. So
I think that's what's actually, I see so many agents now, like when we have on the flip side of deals where they get super emotional, like they get so wrapped up in like what the client's feeling, and they're not trying to like help the situation. Like, let's look at the bigger picture and not also get emotional.
100%. That's never changed, by the way.
That's always
everybody's always acting like whatever we're happening here. Oh, I remember back in the day when, there wasn't this or that. Well, first of all, usually they're wrong, and it's always mm-hmm. been like that on whatever they're complaining about.
Yeah.
It's always been like that. But I can tell you, agents have always been, there's always been a lot of that.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's delight when you work with somebody who is, trying to help, level-headed, and trying to get the transaction to where but take care of their client. But sometimes they mistaken taking care of their client for just, enabling their client.
Yes.
And telling their client, just going along with what their client is saying. Hey.
Oh.
Tyler. Hey, talk about crazy.
Is that Tyler?
Talk about crazy stories.
Come in. Talk about crazy stories. We're talking. So Dad's here. Tyler Knowles is here. He's been on the podcast before. Come on in. We're talking crazy stories. Do you have any like crazy stories to share that stick out?
Yes. So there's two I can think of. So the very first time I went door knocking, got a gun pulled on me.
Oh my gosh.
So you got to keep in mind, when I go up to a front door, I pretty much take out the whole door frame, right? So
they're scared.
My situational awareness was off when I was 23. So I decided to pick a gated neighborhood to go door knock. Yeah, not the wisest decision.
Hey, by the way, one thing that I learned a long time ago, you stay way back on it.
Yeah, you're not right up on the door.
You're not right there. Yes. It's less intimidating.
Yes.
So you knock, and then you go back.
Well, everybody has to learn.
Well, so even that, even if I take 2 steps back, I still can't really see out the door. But this little old lady, she's probably 75 or 80.
Oh my gosh, she pulled a gun?
Oh yeah, big old double barrel shotgun.
Wow.
So I knock on the door, and I could hear her yelling, like, "Go away!" I just knock one more time, and she had this little like kind
Wait a minute, you heard "go away" and you knocked again?
Yeah, I'm committed. I'm determined. I'm not stupid anyway. So she has this little like square drawbridge at the door. Doesn't even open the door. She just opens it up, and it's about my waist level, and just sticks out the shotgun.
Oh
I said, "Go away." And I said, "Yes, ma'am." And I went to go put the flyer down. And I heard, I just took off running.
Oh my gosh!
You gonna leave a flyer with her?
Yeah, hell yeah. That was free here.
Hey, I don't have a story nearly that good, but I was too shy to knock on a door. But I had these newsletters, and this would have been in '82 or early '83, like my first few months in the business, and. So I had these newsletters, and I would be really, like I said, I didn't want to I would even walk past, when people were in the yard, I'd walk past them so I wouldn't have to engage them.
Yeah.
Just unlike Mr. Brave here.
Grape or shoot, but one of the two.
So I'm walking up to a door. You know, like I said, I would avoid those situations. But I'm walking up to a door, and just when I'm getting up to the door, the lady opens the door to let her chihuahua out, and
Ankle biters.
yeah, and the dog just takes off after me. He's nipping at me, biting me, and I'm running down the street, and she doesn't call him off. So she didn't have a gun, but she also kept her weapon engaged, which was that dog.
The dog,
Absolutely.
yeah.
At least his person didn't shoot him.
Yeah.
I had another one where I thought I was going to be shot. So it was a customer down in League City. And this is probably 8 or 9 years ago. It was when I first joined the team. It was one of my very first listings here. And the seller, it was husband and wife. The wife was kind of running the show. The husband had dementia, like early onset dementia. And this was at a time where we had a different sign runner who was a little busy, couldn't get to League City in time. So I had to go deliver the signs. I had just met with the seller the night before, signed a listing agreement, we're moving forward. I get to the house to put the sign in the yard. He walks outside with the weapon and says, "Who the F are you?" And at first I thought he was kidding, right? Because I forgot he had dementia. And I'm looking at him, I go, "Sir, I was at your house like 9 hours ago.
Oh my
we just had a conversation. You signed documents probably 8 hours ago. Like, we've talked about this 2 or 3 times now." And he drew the weapon, and I called his wife and I said, "Kevin's about to shoot me. Can you please start talking to him?"
Please intervene.
And she's like, "Kevin, stop." So I'll never forget that one. They owned a dog collar company. They sold these specialty dog collars.
So I had one, I don't know if you've heard about this with the gun. The client was talking, he was like, been in one of the wars and was a vet, and he started talking about guns, and I'm trying to connect, not a gun person. We we do have a gun, but we didn't at the time. But I'm not a gun person. So I was trying to make a connection. Oh yeah, I'd love, I really need to learn to get my handgun license. He goes in the other room and pulls the gun out and wants me to pick it up and hold it. And I couldn't get out of there quick enough. I'm texting my husband going, "Oh my gosh." And he's like, "You will never go back there again." But people are nuts. And we're in Texas, so guns are a big deal. Oh my gosh, crazy. Well, thank you, Tyler, for joining. I love that.
Thank you for having
what
me.
a nice surprise.
Saving us, man.
We got some fun, crazy stories out of everybody.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
thank you so much. Have a good one.
All right.